okay, to sum up the Dalton Schultz thing, not likely to be extended. And I guess we can move on from there. What's the storyline you're most interested in following once we get to training camp in Oxnard?
I think it's twofold. One, I'm really interested to see how this wide receiver position comes together without Amari Cooper, without Cedric Wilson, and really CeeDee Lamb would be the first to tell you that he has to really elevate his game. It's not just because Amari Cooper is no longer in the picture, but just needs to be more detailed with his route running, with the timing between him and Dak Prescott. It wasn't where it needed to be at all last year. Too often they weren't on the same page. Dak Prescott threw 10 interceptions. The only player who was on targeted for more than one of those interceptions was CeeDee Lamb, who was on the other side of 6 of those 10 picks. So I think that's one indicator of him just not being completely in rhythm. And so how he has built and with his timing and his progression in his third year, along with some of the new faces, including the third-round pick Jalen Tolbert, I just think it's one of the interesting spots. And then defensively, I know Dan Quinn, he's a believer in this idea of it's from the book Legacy. If you've read it, it's about the all-black New Zealand rugby team. And there's in this book, it's among the many great advice about leadership. It's this phrase where if you're on the top of your game, change your game. And so, how does Dan Quinn, stay on front after such a strong start to his time as the Cowboys defensive coordinator? I'm really interested to see what he does in year 2 with all the pieces that he has.
Mike, are you concerned at all about Kellen Moore, the play caller, coming into this year?
I think just as we talk about young players growing and evolving in this game, we too need to be mindful of young coaches growing and evolving in this game. And I don't know if it's as much play calling, but I think it's play design, where at times, how are you attacking zone coverage? What are you doing in certain situations in the red zone? I think there's a lot of positive that Kellen Moore does. I mean, he's got unscripted plays that he presents opponents each and every week, where it seems like he's down to something different, something they haven't seen. And I think overall that has been to the betterment of the offense. But I just think there's something to be said, though, for just continuing to grow as a young coach. I think we shouldn't forget how young of a coach Kellen Moore is. So, yes, I'm not saying I'm not giving him a total hall pass on it, but I think there's a measure of patience, because I've been around young offensive coordinators or new offensive coordinators who turn out to be tremendous over the course of their career, but there are these early age, things that don't go their way that they learn from. And, I've seen guys get fired and then they go on to have tremendous careers. And I think over the course of time, it bodes well to be more patient with the young, promising coach such as Kellen Moore.
Michael Gehlken, Dallas Morning News, with us here in the GBag Nation. Are you buying what they're selling in regards to Tony Pollard being more of a focal point in the offense?
No, not until I see it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think there were so many examples, so many opportunities last season where, okay, this makes a whole lot of sense to let Tony Pollard just take over and to feed him touches. And after the New Orleans game, when he suffered the plantar fascia injury, after that, in the weeks after, it was understandable that he wouldn't be a big part of things. But, once down the stretch, he resumed his role as kickoff returner. It's like, okay, well, the kid gloves are off. And yet, against Arizona, if memory serves, they really went away from him. And then in the playoff game against the Niners, they really went away from him. Meanwhile, Zeke Elliott was giving the team what he had while playing with the knee brace. But I just think that the Cowboys could have done a little bit more of a mixture of touches between the two, and it would have been for the betterment of their offense. But that's just my opinion. But here we are again, and they're talking about getting involved more and doing more in the passing game, more in the slot and that sort. But maybe more of them will be on the field at the same time, Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. But it's all until I see it, until I can put it on tape and watch it and actually process it. Then I don't know. I think it makes sense, but whether or not it happens, I'm going to wait and see on that.
I'm going to ask you the question about, because I trust your opinion on this. Where is it on the offensive line? Do you feel like that was maybe okay if Kellen Moore's young and learning? would this be on Joe Philbin and what we saw with the offensive line then, some of the problems they had in the second half of the season?
Well, I think there's no doubt that the offensive line could have played better for stretches of last season. I think really 2020 year was a little bit more understandable for some of the inconsistency that we saw when Tyron only plays 4 games, Lyle Collins misses the entire season, Zach Martin misses several games with concussion and calf issue. But last year, I think you saw in between left guard and center, there was some inconsistency there. Tyler Biotish now, he's got another year of experience under him. He's kind of seen it all at this point, which is a huge deal for a center. And then at left guard, just a lot more physicality where, there was that game against, I want to say it was Eagles early on where it was a situation where the Cowboys weren't especially aggressive late in the second quarter. And the reason, Mike McCarthy kind of got second-guessed, widely in the media for it. But I think when you looked at all the penetration that was coming from the left guard and center side, just the way that the defensive tackles for the Eagles were just eating the Cowboys up, they weren't feeling comfortable in that scenario. So I think with the physicality of Tyler Smith, and he's learning, but with the physicality there should be improvement. The Cowboys will certainly hope that allow them to be a little bit more physical, a little more balanced on offense, especially with the question marks at the wide receiver position.
It's Michael Gehlken with us here in the GBag Nation. What do you make of all the Sean Payton rumors in regards to the Cowboys?
I don't know. I don't care. I mean, I don't. Am I allowed to say that?
Yes, absolutely.
Say whatever you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I remember, when Bill Cowher first went into the booth, and there was a lot of talk about, could you take this job or that job or maybe this next one? Or when John Gruden went into the booth, and I think he stayed a lot longer than many people thought. There was a whole lot of speculation about when he might exit it. And so Sean Payton hasn't even called a game yet, and already away we go. And I think from the broadcaster or coach-turned-broadcaster advantage, it's probably a good thing to have your name stay out in front. And it's probably good from a contract negotiation standpoint. People are always viewing you as this really hot thing. It's kind of like the way Los Angeles was always viewed before it got a football team, now 2, that it could be this spot that if you don't build a stadium with public money, there's Los Angeles coming. And so I think there's a lot of leverage probably in play. And I don't know. I believe the Cowboys when they say that they're committed to Mike McCarthy, at least for this season. And if they were to move on from McCarthy after the year, and we're really getting ahead of ourselves, Dan Quinn, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone as qualified or certainly well-liked in his locker room as he is. So we'll see, but golly, I think there's so many more interesting parts of this team. And it's a fair question because I get it, but in terms of where my attention is, I pay little of it, devote little of it towards Sean Payton.
So you don't think the talk will go away? I mean, what makes it go away? Is it, of course, winning will take care of that, but is there a certain, is it something that we're always going to, every loss that we're going to talk about Sean Payton, or is this going to be one of those things? Is this going to hang over their heads the whole year?
I think it will. Yeah. And until you win and winning, it's not just, repeating as NFC East champion, that's not enough. You got to win a playoff game, with something that this franchise is starved for and this fan base is starving for. You got to do something that shows that this organization can get over the hump. And last year, it'd be hard to imagine the Cowboys having more talent on the field first round of these playoffs coming up next year than they did this past year, with given how healthy that they were. And they weren't able to do anything with it. So it's going to come down to winning in January, what kind of run they can make. And if they don't, they can have a great regular season, but if they're one and done in the playoffs again, it's going to be the Sean Payton talk all over again. And I think Mike McCarthy at this point has kind of come to accept the reality of this position that he's in here in Dallas. That kind of comes with his opportunity.
Mike, do you think he gained that knowledge after last season, or is that something that it was after the first season that Mike was here?
I think he knew, no doubt, when he first took the job that this ain't Green Bay, that this is different, that it's a little You're no longer in this small town, and even though they're both historic franchises, he actually has an owner to whom he's under account, and it was just a different dynamic with that he recognized from the jump. That said, I think over the course of the 2020 season, I would say especially over the course of his most recent year, he really came to appreciate just how public and how at the forefront, and how if we're having a conversation about who the right tackle is going to be, or we're going to ask him about it on a Wednesday press conference, we really don't get a chance because on Tuesday, your owner has already gone on to your guys' radio station and said, oh, yeah, that'll be Terrence Steele. Or I think it was right tackle, left tackle, whatever that one was. But, yeah, so it's just it's a different ball game, and I think he's learned pretty quickly about it. And so at this point, I think the calluses are pretty well built where nothing should surprise him as it pertains to, questions about his job status or anything else applying to his football team.